Hello, I hope I find you well. And in today's Lightroom Classic quick tip, we're going to be looking at renaming our images within Lightroom Classic. And towards the end of this video, we're going to look at some examples of workflow. So without any further ado, let's jump across to Lightroom Classic. So here I am in Lightroom Classic version 11.5. And this was an image that I took a few days ago at a fairground. It's a long exposure. Now, before we look at it in Lightroom, I just wanted to explain one thing. A lot of camera manufacturers allow us to rename or part rename our images within the camera. And I do that, but I do that to identify what camera I use to take the photograph. I have got multiple cameras, and the information from the file name will give me some answers to questions without looking at the image. So for example, how big could I make that print? So with this file, which was taken with a Nikon Z5, I've already changed in camera at time of capture the first 3 digits of the file name, the shutter actuation number, to NZ5, Nikon Z5. And this is shutter actuation 341. And just similarly, I would change it to CR3, Canon R3. I know immediately if a client asks me a question, I would know what camera I shot with that, so it would give me a part of the information. So I wanted to throw that out there to get you to think about what you do in camera. Not all cameras allow you to do it, most cameras do. So what is a photograph? It's a recording, a memory, a motion, light on a subject at a particular unique moment in time. And for my workflow, which is a portfolio photographer, so I work for some employers, I work as an employee, as a freelance, I work for some periodicals as a freelance, I create my own projects, I've got my own family images, so I've got a multitude of needs from a file naming system. Now, taking this point as an image is a moment in time. It's light on a subject in a moment of time. I use file renaming to record that moment in time, along with who owns the copyright and the camera and the file actuation number. Now, if you press I on your keyboard, it cycles through information. You can change this information in the view section, but I have file name, date, time, number of pixels. Press I again. I then have my exposure and lens that I use, so I can know from that information what camera I took with it, what lens I use, the settings of the exposure, but also date and time. Now I want to use that information, if I can, in an automated process to renaming images. And there's several ways that you can rename. So we can go up to Library, come down to Rename. If you've got a large format keyboard with function keys, it's F2. Or we can come across to the IPTC panel in Metadata and File Name. There we go, there's the original file name. We can click in there and type something if we wish, or we can click on the end to the drop down. And this panel appears. And Lightroom comes with some custom presets already, and it's in an alphanumerical order. But what we're going to do is we're going to look at this Nikon one and we're going to edit this, or we're going to start with a new file renaming system. And I'm going to explain my file renaming system. So I'm going to go Command A to select all, and I'm going to delete everything in there to start with. Now, as I said to you, I'm a project or a portfolio photographer. So I work as an employee for periodicals, as a freelance periodicals, as stock agency, as a project. I create my own projects and publications. I work for businesses. Now, at some point, the copyright may change, or it may be assigned at point of capture. So if I was an employee using my own equipment and I was relinquishing the copyright, I want to identify that from the image. I might manage the images for the client. So what I do is the first 3 letters of the file name tells me who the copyright owner is. So in my case, MSP, I own the copyright. Now, taking the principle of this image is a unique moment in time, I want to record the time and date, or date and time, of when this was captured. And we have all that information and more in our metadata. So as you can see, we've got some drop downs. We've got 6 drop downs here. File information, or image name. So we've got file name as suffix, folder name. We've got original file name. We've got suffix copy name. There's tons of information here, and you need to. No, you don't need to. It's best practice to sit down and work out what naming system you would like. What eventualities will there be? What and also think about, you've got your file naming structure, but also the client's file naming structure. So if you're a wedding photographer and you sold them a package of 60 images, you might want a different file renaming structure. And we'll come on to that in a minute. So we've got sequence and date. So we've got sequencing. So we've got sequence, image, and total. We got date and time. And then we got metadata. So perhaps you got some keywords or copy data or location. You can make that generic as a part of a file renaming structure, and you can use any combination of these. And this is where Lightroom is so powerful. You can create different presets for different reasons. So I'm going to show you what I do. I come into date and time. So I've first, in this first box, and you can see it says example, it's going to say MSP. I put my date in there because that's a unique moment in time. So I do year, month, day. So there we go. So you can see it says MSP, copyright owner, 2022 09/22, and it's the date of capture. So I've got that. So this was taken on that date. Who owns the copyright and the date? Unique. I now put an underscore to space it out, and now I'm going to put in there the time, hours, minutes, and seconds. So I come down to hours, that drops in, minutes, and seconds. So as you can see from the example, I've got MSP 2022 09/22. Underscore 18, 53 and 52 seconds. Now with a lot of cameras these days, we can take multitude of images per second. So going to the second is not going to create me a unique number. But if I take the file actuation number and just add file name by hitting insert, file name, I've now got MSP, copyright owner, the date and the time, and the shutter actuation number. And that is a unique moment, because if I took 120 frames in a second, or 150 frames if it's a Canon R3, this shutter actuation number will change each time, but the time would stay the same. So this is my file renaming. Okay, that is a unique moment in time with a unique file name. Now, they're my names. Let's say I was a wedding photographer and I sold a package, or let's say I was any type of photographer that I sold a package, 60 or so images, but you took, let's say 300 images. And let's just say, yes, we're a wedding photographer and we wanted to rename them, not necessarily in your catalogue, but rename them Jones and James. Those were the surnames of the bride and groom. Okay. And then I wanted to number my images. So I wanted to create a sequence, and I did 60 images. So sequence 01. So I'd have a Jones and James 01, 02, 03, 04, 05. And now we're going to click on the drop down and we're going to save this to Jones and James. Okay. just create a preset. Now I've created that preset and go done. Okay, and I've now have this in the drop down. So in this case, I'm going to rename this to my Nikon format, press OK, and you'll see from my file renaming structure here, MSP, I'm the copyright holder, date, time, or time and, date and time, and Nikon Z5, shutter action, and that's unique. If I had another image, same second, exactly the same time, it would say 42, 43, but the time could be the same. So that's how I rename my files in Lightroom Classic. However, that's in the catalog. So if I press G, that's the catalog, okay? But I can rename them differently on export. So if we go right click, or we can go up to File and Export, and we come into Export and we're going to export it, we have in the export module, we have file renaming. And we can rename it to one of the presets. So I did Jones and James, and it would rename this. So let's have a look. So we're going to rename that, and we're going to put it in Finder so we can see it when we do this. Now, why would I do that? So let's paint your scenario. Your client, you've done a wedding, or you sold a package to a business. You took 500 images and you've culled them, you've selected them. And if you supply them the original file naming, in my case NZ50341, and then the next image you supplied them was, let's say 52, then the next image would be 63. That's immediately saying to the client, there's images in between. Where's 42? Where's 43? Where's 44? But you don't want to upset your file renaming system, because they're unique moments in time to you. So you can export this with the client's renaming system. So in this case, it's going to be, as you can see in the example, Joan and James 01. And if I press export, it's exported it, and the Finder will come up in a second. There we go, 01. And I'd have 2, 3, 4, and if I did a 60 image package, it'll go 1 to 60. So that's a great way of not giving too much information to the client. You're just saying, there's your 60 images that you've paid for. Okay, so think about how you want to rename your images. Think of a process. An image is a unique moment in time. You can have a file renaming system in your catalog different to the final images, which will then help you deliver those. And if you then share those images, you can preserve that file naming structure outside of Lightroom Classic. So I hope today has been of help to you. If it has, please subscribe. If you've got a question, leave a comment down below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And give me a thumbs up. To the side of me, there is my Lightroom Classic playlist, where I do lots of videos, single actions, answering one question, how do you do it, rather than going through a whole module. Keep taking photos. Take care. Bye for now.